You're returning to the lands between as a disgraced tarnished, seeking the Elden Ring, and you just had your ass handed to you by a giant spider-human hybrid-looking freak. Might be time to contemplate your life decisions. It's pretty hard to get any lower than this, except you're also being woken up Aragorn style, if you know what I mean. So how can a maidenless, pathetic wretch such as you expect to obtain the Elden Ring? Well, I'll tell you how. You lift yourself up by your bootstraps and you get good. Ha, no, I'm kidding, of course. With Elden Ring being the most accessible of all the FromSoft titles, there's plenty of ways for you to power up, improve your skills, and take down bosses, quite easily and without too much frustration, while still offering a very fun challenge. I'm Cohesive Key, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to power up early. Now before watching this video, I would encourage you to follow my early map guide, which I will link down below. After following the map guide, you will be able to access more than half of the map without fighting any bosses. And on that note, I'd like to levy a reminder. This guide does contain location spoilers, but no story elements. The explicit purpose of this guide is to make Elden Ring, a game which I think is one of the best of all time, more accessible and easier for a variety of players, especially beginners. Now this guide is hardly exhaustive, but I'm going to be covering a broad variety of subjects on what I consider the best ways to power up your character early, including weapons, ashes of war, armor, shields, spellcasting items, talismans, spirit ashes, rune farming locations, upgrade materials, and a miscellaneous category of other essential items. I will be showing you all of the locations. And so without further ado, let's get started with weapons. The Morning Star is located in the Weeping Peninsula. Just follow the path and you'll eventually find this overturned wagon which will contain the weapon. This is one of my favorites. It works well as a quality weapon. It scales with both strength and dexterity equally. It also has native blood buildup, which contributes to hemorrhage. The Ash of War is pretty basic, but it can knock shields out of the way. The broadsword is located very close to where you first emerge in Limgrave, just to the south. It's sold by one of the nomadic merchants located here. Just jump off this platform here, and run along to the merchant.
You again. I don't want any trouble.
Now the broadsword is a very basic straight sword. It has very low requirements and scales primarily with strength. The Ash of War is a poise-breaking stab after you do R2 input. The short bow is purchased from the same merchant as the broadsword. Just pick it up while you're there. The stat requirements are very minimal, and any Rune level 1 player should be able to use it. Having any ranged weapon of some kind is essential to exploration, as it allows you to draw aggro from individual enemies, so that you're not fighting too many of them at once. At least that's primarily what I use it for. There are some psychos out there who use bows as a primary weapon. I'm not one of them and I don't suggest it. The Uchi Katana is located here at the Death Touch Catacombs. This is a very short dungeon. Just run your way through and you'll find it located here. The Uchi Katana is many people's favorite. It's the starting weapon of the samurai class. It has native bleed and is quality scaling with strength and dexterity equally. The dexterity requirement is a little higher than other weapons, so you'll need to level up your dex if you want to use this, unless your starting class already has that requirement. The Ash of War is a Rurouni Kenshin anime-style move. You even shake the blood off of your blade afterward. The Reduvia dagger is found in this ravine, next to a cave. When you're at this location, you'll be invaded by a bloody finger. Now this is a pretty tough fight early on, but luckily, you have some help. Luckily for you, Yura shows up, says some badass stuff, and proceeds to spank the bloody finger. So now that you've successfully gank squatted this guy, you have access to his bloody dagger, which he's been using against you. Reduvia is a pretty horrific looking dagger that gives you tetanus just by looking at it. It has passive bleed buildup, modest strength and dexterity requirements, but also requires arcane. The Ash of War shoots an arc of blood, which causes additional bleed buildup. The Nakakiba is located on Yura, who is usually going to be here after the fight with the bloody finger, or he may be located over here underneath this arc. It's essentially a juiced up version of the Uchi Katana. It's the weapon Yura just used to help us fight the bloody finger, and unfortunately he's not just going to give it to us. You're gonna have to kill him in order to get it this early. Now, he does have a quest associated with him, and killing him will obviously affect that quest, so you're going to have to determine if it's worth it to get this weapon. You can still obtain it later without killing Yura, but you will need to complete his quest first, which I'm not going to go into in this guide. After you provoke him into battle, he's once again going to say some more badass stuff, and you'll have to take him down. Now, he's pretty tough, so bring your A game. I hope it was worth it. Now, as I mentioned before, the Nakakiba is basically just a better version of the Uchi Katana. It has higher stat requirements, also has native bleed buildup, and it scales a little bit better with dexterity than strength. And as you can see, it is also very long, which increases the reach to enemies. The Ash of War is a rushing stab, which is devastating to poise. The Carian Knight's sword is located in northern Liurnia of the lakes. Follow the path this way. There is a carriage following this path, and you'll need to loot it in order to get the weapon.
God, please, no! 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 No!
Just keep trying until you get it. Make sure that you attack the trolls so that they stop moving, otherwise it will not open. This is a good weapon for a spellcaster melee hybrid, as it scales with intelligence, in addition to strength and dexterity. Of note, the R2 animation is unique amongst straight swords. The Ash of War is the coolest part. You hold down L2 to charge up a giant magical sword, and then slam it down. The Sacred Butchering Knife is located on Mount Gelmir. You're going to follow this path from the Site of Grace to this little shack right here. Now, in order to get it, you will have to contend with an invader, because she is the one carrying it. This is a tough fight for early game, and I personally died multiple times, but it's such a good weapon that I feel like it's worth it. Pro tip, take out the dogs before you start this fight. A tough fight to be sure, but once you've beaten her, you'll be rewarded with the Sacred Butchering Knife. This is actually a sacred infusion on the Butchering Knife. If you remove the sacred infusion, you'll be left with a regular Butchering Knife, and you can do that by swapping out the Ash of War. The two-handed R2 is interesting and unique. Souls veterans will recognize it from Maneater Mildred's moves. The Ash of War powers up your attacks, and it also adds a unique R2. The Great Axe is found in Limgrave, in a caravan following this route. Pretty easy to find. First thing you'll have to do is stop these trolls, just by attacking one of them. You don't even have to kill them. And then loot the caravan. Try not to get killed by any of these guys while you're doing it. And, well, the caravan disappeared. I've literally never had that happen in all the times I've played this game. Just snatch it up. So I really enjoy the Great Axe, but it may not be appropriate for this guide. It has pretty beefy strength requirements, up to 30. But if you follow some of the farming mechanisms that I demonstrate later, it should be no problem. The Ash of War for Great Axe is also Barbaric Roar. It increases attack and leads to a unique R2 attack. The Claymore is found at Castle Morn. So after you go up the elevator to Castle Morn, you'll see all of these enemy misbegotten around. Pretty intimidating, but turns out you can just run right past them. So you'll want to go up and to the right, past these misbegotten and the funeral pyre, and then run around into this room and open up the chest to get the claymore. Now this is a great sword with very modest requirements and scales equally with strength and dex. Even if great swords aren't your thing, I would still recommend that you try this weapon and see if you like it. I have multiple friends who went through the entire game with just this weapon and beat it. It's excellent. It was also a favorite in Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3. And the best demonstration is yet to come. The Ash of War, Lion's Claw. This move destroys poise and will stagger or at least interrupt the attacks of most enemies. The Zweihander is located in the Weeping Peninsula at the Isolated Merchant's Shack. There's no gimmick to getting this, you just have to pay. This is the only colossal sword in this guide, and I think it's the only one appropriate for beginners. The requirements are pretty low for a colossal sword, and so it's easy for even a beginner to use. The R2 attack is unique amongst colossal swords. It's a thrust instead of a swing. The Ash of War is not particularly interesting, but it gives you increased poise while you do this follow-up attack. I've saved the best for last. The Bloodhound's Fang can be found here at the Forlorn Hound Everjail. However, to make it a little easier, you can do a short quest starting here at the Mistwood Ruins, then venturing over to the Church of Ella, and then back to the Mistwood Ruins. We'll start out in the Mistwood Ruins, and we will see Blythe there, howling at the sky. After we see him, we're going to go over to the Church of Ella and talk to the merchant, Kale. Kale's going to talk about how he and Blythe are bros, and he'll put in a good word for us.
The howl of a wolf in the Mistwood. I suppose he must still be skulking about. I know. Why not meet him for yourself? Next time you hear the wolf's howl, make this signal right under the source. Oh, don't fret. There is nothing to fear. I just have an inkling.
So after this dialogue, he'll give you the unique gesture, Finger Snap.
Goodbye.
That will signal Blythe to stop being an edgelord and come off of the spire. So after we get back to the Mistwood Ruins, swap out one of your gestures for the Finger Snap, and then use it.
Who goes there? Kale sent you, did he? Ever the bloody busybody.
That's pretty rude, saying that about your bro.
Maybe to him you don't seem so strange. The name's Blythe. I'm looking for a man who goes by Darrow.
So Blythe will tell you about how he's a servant of justice and he has to hunt down this individual, Darrow.
Come tell me if you find him before I do.
Spoiler alert, Darrow is the one that holds the sword that we're looking for. So now we're at the Forlorn Hound Everjail. First of all, we will warp into the jail. You can add some summons to make this fight a little bit easier. And then here's Blythe's summon sign. And he will make the fight a lot easier.
Darrow, rotting in a cell is no true justice. No.
Alright, and now let's fight Darrow.
For you.
This is also a tough fight, and you're a little bit underleveled for it at this point. But you can let Blythe and your summons do most of the work, and then come back for the coup de grace. After Darrow is dead, you're rewarded with the Bloodhound's Fang. The Bloodhound's Fang scales more with dex than it does with strength. The stat requirements are pretty modest, so it's easy to wield for most players, even early game. The Bloodhound's Fang is a somber weapon, meaning that it upgrades with somber stones rather than regular smithing stones. This is a really fun weapon, and it's another one I strongly recommend trying out to see if you like it. I have multiple friends who went from the beginning to the end of this game with only this weapon. The Ash of War is the best part. You perform a spinning slash that pulls you away from the enemy, and then a follow-up slash with increased iframes. So that's all for weapons. This is hardly all-encompassing, but these are some of my favorite weapons to start out with, and I think some of them are good enough to take you through the entire game. Now, after collecting all of those weapons, you're going to want to swap out your Ashes of War, so I'll show you some of my favorites. Ashes of War add special movesets to each weapon. In order to exchange them, you will need the Whetstone Knife, which I will show you later. It's important to consider that Ashes of War add affinities, which are special infusions that increase scaling to certain attributes. Each Ash of War will come with its base affinity, but eventually you'll be able to swap them out for whatever you prefer when you've obtained additional wet blades. Attached is a chart of all the affinities. Take some time and look at it if you're interested. Start out at the Stormhill Shack to find the Wild Strike's Ash of War. Ride north from the site of Grace following the road, until you see the Teardrop Scarab in the middle of the road here. Wild Strikes gives the heavy affinity, which increases strength scale. Hold L2 to wave your weapon back and forth wildly. You can do this as long as you have stamina and FP. Press R2 to follow up the attack with a slam. The Bloody Slash is at fort height. Head to the upper floors of the fort to confront the knight. Take him down, and we've got it. The Bloody Slash adds bleed affinity, which increases arcane scaling. Press L2 to coat your weapon in blood at the cost of a small amount of health, and proc significant bleed damage against enemies. Sacred Blade is located just north of the Third Church of America. Ride north just slightly to find the Scarab. Sacred Blade adds sacred affinity to your weapon, adding faith scaling. Press L2 to fire an arc of holy energy. After you use it, your weapon will maintain an aura and continue to do holy damage. You'll find Double Slash at the town of Celia. You'll need to make your way up onto the rooftops by using Torrent, because you have to shoot the Scarab from a distance, otherwise it will disappear. Once you've found your way up here, get out your bow and shoot the Scarab. You can also shoot him from down low, but this is where I do it. Double Slash adds Keen Affinity, which increases dexterity scaling. Repeatedly hitting L2 triggers a 6-attack combo. This one is great for proccing status effects. You'll find the Cragblade Ash of War in South Caelid. Go to this little rocky outcropping, and spend too much time looking for the Scarab. Cragblade adds heavy affinity, increasing strength scaling. L2 parries your weapon in the ground, and uses gravity magic to attach a bunch of rocks. This greatly increases your attack power and stance damage. To find Sword Dance, start at the converted tower, then head north and west following the edge of the cliff. After you find this area leading downwards, throw the Scarab, and you've got Sword Dance. It adds keen affinity, increasing dexterity scaling. Pressing L2 allows you to close the gap between you and your enemy quickly, with a series of upward slashes and then a final downward slash. Sacred Order is found near the abandoned coffin site of Grace in the Altus Plateau. Head northwest and you'll see the scarab pretty soon. Sacred Order adds sacred affinity, increasing faith scaling. Press L2 to coat your weapon in holy energy, increasing damage against those who live in death. We're going to Fort Gale to find the Lion's Claw. Now, in order to get inside of the fort, there's a roundabout way. Make your way to the front of the fort first. Then jump onto this route, and you can get in via that ladder. This is our target, and he's a badass. It may take you a few tries to take him down. Look for this attack to punish or heal. This attack, too, leaves a big punish window. Be patient and take your time with this fight. It's very tough for a low level, but you'll be rewarded with the Lion's Claw. It adds heavy affinity, increasing strength scaling. Use L2 to do a somersaulting forward attack to close the distance and smash your enemy into the ground. The giant hunt Ash of War can be found by the East Raya Lucaria gate. The boss that holds the Ash of War only appears at nighttime, so advance the time. I like to request a little help. If you slowly whittle down the health of the horse, eventually it will knock the rider off, leaving him open for a critical attack. And with that, I get by with a little help from my friends. You get the Ash of War, as well as a bonus weapon, the Knight Rider Glaive, which I really like. This is my all-time favorite Ash of War, and I've used it to beat the game many times. Close the distance with an upward stab, doing enormous physical and poise damage. Many small and medium-sized enemies will be thrown up in the air by the sheer awesomeness. Next, we'll move on to armor. Now, it may not be illustrious or sexy, but you can't go wrong with the Knight set, which is found at the Round Table Hold. You may have to do a bit of farming for it. It costs 13,500 runes, but it has excellent poise and pretty decent weight. It's an excellent starting armor. But if you're looking for something a little bit lighter, you can go here to the Nomadic Merchant and buy the Iron set. It's less expensive, the poise is a little bit lower, but the weight is also lower. I also think it looks pretty cool. Now, both of these are good basic armor options that can easily get you through most of the game, no problem. But if you really want to go for some fashion souls, you're going to want to go to the Gatefront Ruins for some farming. Now, the drop rates for their armor sets are not that high, so you're going to have to kill a lot of guys and get them to respawn. Kill and kill and kill until you forget what killing means, until you start to lose yourself.
And when you gather your loot from the fallen, knees deep in pools of blood, you can ask yourself, was it all worth it?
Well, of course it was. The Godric Knight set offers good poise with reasonable weight, and it's pretty cool looking. I give it a modest drip value. Now, the Godric Knight set offers the same poise as the Knight set, but its drip value is through the roof for the purposes of fashion souls. So those are my choices for early armor sets, curated for the purpose of this guide. Next up, let's move on to shields. The Beastcrest Heater Shield is located at a small fortification just down the road from the War Master's shack. You can fight all the enemies if you want to, but you can mostly just sneak in here and grab what you want from the chest. This is a very basic, no-frills shield, but it has 100% physical damage negation and very minimal stat requirements to wield it. The Ash of War is parry, which allows you to interrupt an enemy's attack and leave them open for a riposte. The Great Turtle Shield is located here next to the Nomadic Merchant. To get there, you'll need to be on Torrent, and you will take the Spirit Spring up and to the left here. And when you jump, you're aiming for the top of that tower, like so. And here it is, the Great Turtle Shield. The Great Turtle Shield has slightly higher stat requirements than our previous shield. One of its drawbacks is that it does not have 100% physical damage negation, so you will take chip damage when you are attempting to defend with it. That sounds bad, but its passive effect more than makes up for it. It boosts your stamina recovery speed, and can stack with certain talismans. Half the time when I'm using this, it's on my back while I'm two-handing a weapon. Barricade Shield decreases the stamina cost of blocking and makes attacks bounce off more easily. The Kite Shield is located at the first nomadic merchant in Liurnia. You can just buy it off of him, along with anything else that you want. This is another very basic shield, similar to the Beast Crest Heater Shield. The chief difference is that it does not have an associated Ash of War, which means pressing L2 will default to your primary weapon's Ash of War. This is excellent in circumstances where you want to use both a shield and a weapon, but want to primarily use the weapon's Ash of War. The brass shield can be found at a fortification near this site of grace. If you kill this specific soldier, he will drop the brass shield. However, you can farm this shield from any Godric soldiers. This shield is comparable to the brass shield, 100% physical damage negation. I just like the look of it better, and the guard boost is a little higher, meaning enemy attacks will bounce off more easily. It has no associated Ash of War, so once again, L2 input will default to your primary weapon's Ash of War. For the next part of the guide, I'll move on to spellcasting. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't do a lot of spellcasting in my playthroughs. I do use a lot of incantations for the purposes of buffing, but in particular, I find sorceries to be one of the most boring aspects of Elden Ring. But I know a lot of people like them, so I dipped my toes into a little early sorcery gear and spells, just with you in mind. If you would like an in-depth look at sorceries, I recommend the video below, which I will also link in the description. I will start the guide with incantations. The finger seal can be bought at the Table of Lost Grace. It's a very basic seal for the purposes of incantation casting. It has minimal stat requirements and scales primarily with faith. The Claw Mark seal is located at the Bestial Sanctum, and it requires bringing Garank at least one death root. One of these can be found on the boss at the Death-Touched Catacombs, which you saw earlier in this guide. As a lover of all things bonk, this is my preferred sacred seal, because it scales with both faith and strength, making it ideal for melee characters that also want to buff with faith incantations. Flame Grant Me Strength is an incantation found here at Fort Gale. While dodging enemies, you'll need to navigate around the castle to the back. The incantation is located here behind the chariots. It buffs your physical and fire damage, and also increases stamina recovery speed. Flame Cleanse Me is found in Liurnia at a fire monk camp here. An essential utility incantation. It will remove both poison and scarlet rot from you, at the cost of a small amount of health. Golden Vow is located at the Corpse Stench Shack, the same place where we fought Tarnished Eater Anastasia. Now hopefully you've already killed her by now, so getting this should be no problem. Golden Vow buffs damage and damage negation for both you and nearby allies. As a bonus, there is an Ash of War variant found here in Limgrave. You will need to kill this wandering Godric Knight in order to get it. It has the same effect as the incantation, but can be applied to a weapon. Therefore, it can theoretically be used earlier. The Meteorite Staff is found here, in the Streets of Sage Ruins. This is the only sorcery catalyst I'm going to put on this list. Most of the best high-tier catalysts are only going to be found in the mid to late game. And to be frank, this is all you will need for sorcery in the early to mid game. The Meteorite Staff already comes with S-tier scaling with intelligence, and it has a very high sorcery scaling. The caveat is that it cannot be upgraded any further, but you won't need to. To get the Glintstone Phalanx, you'll have to start here at the same fortification where we got the brass shield. Jump over this gap to the ruin. Take care of this guy. And then grab this item, the Royal House Scroll. Next, you'll want to head to the Church of Vows in Liurnia, because we need someone who will read the scroll to us and can teach us the spell. I prefer giving it to Muriel, the Turtle Pope, because he will accept scrolls of any type and is a good catch-all for teaching any types of spells. Buy the Glintblade Phalanx, and then you're all set. The Glintblade Phalanx summons 5 magical blades, which will home in on nearby enemies and attack them for you. The Rocksling is also located at the Streets of Sage Ruins, very close to where we found the meteorite staff, just a little further north. You can just avoid the fungal bros and go into the basement. Rocksling summons 3 meteorite projectiles which will home in on enemies and do enormous poise damage. Now that's all I'm going to cover for spellcasting. I don't enjoy it very much, but the items I covered should get you started. In particular, if you want to go more in depth on sorcery, I recommend watching the video that I posted earlier. Or, if you know a good guide, please post it in the comments. Next, I'm going to move on to Talismans. The Assassin's Crimson Dagger is found at the Death-Touched Catacombs. This is a very short dungeon, and you'll have to beat the boss, a weakened version of the Black Knife Assassin. This talisman restores health on critical hits. I particularly like to utilize it during stealth. The Green Turtle Talisman is found at the Summon Water Village. There is a field boss in this area. I'll be covering him later. He's fairly easy to beat. You'll need a Stone Sword key to unlock the Fog Gate. And voila! This talisman raises stamina recovery speed, and it's essential for early game. The Dragon Crest Shield Talisman is found at the Bestial Sanctum, but the route to get it is very tricky, so follow along closely. On the western side there will be cliffs where you can drop down onto this route. Then there's another route that you can jump to, and so on and so forth. This may take you a few tries, but just keep going at it. You can utilize Torrent's double jump to get to some of the trickier places. After landing here, you're now down to the lowest level. You can stop here and grab this treasure, but this is not what we're looking for. You may encounter a few enemies, but they're not that tough. This talisman reduces physical damage by 10%. Excellent for early game when your vitality is pretty low. The Erdtree's Favor is located in the Stranded Graveyard, where you started the game. You will need 2 Stone Sword keys to unlock this Fog Gate. I saved the best for last. This one's very tough to get, but it's well worth it. Don't be discouraged if you die several times trying to get it. Just keep at it and make sure you don't bring a lot of runes with you. 6th time is the charm, so watch all the way through and I'll show you how to get there. To avoid this chariot, you're going to want to duck into these alcoves. To the left of this bridge is a small platform that you will jump down onto. You will have to kill these imps in order to progress. They just make it too difficult to continue. Once they're taken care of, take out your bow and shoot the pillar once to make it retract into the ground. And with that, you're free and clear. Or are you? This last section is a suicide run. It's very likely that you will die, so don't bring anything of value. 2 grafted scions will jump down from the ceiling, but you can avoid them and just grab the talisman. This has to be one of the best early game talismans. It increases HP, equipment load, and stamina, all at the cost of 1 talisman slot. These 4 talismans that I showed you, in various combinations, or done separately, will greatly increase your survivability in the early game. Additionally, the Great Turtle, Dragon Crest Shield, and Erdtree Favor talismans all have higher level variants in the later game. For the next part of the guide, I'll move on to Spirit Ashes. Now there are 64 Spirit Ashes in the base game, so I'm not going to spend an inordinate amount of time going over them. I'm going to focus on 2 early game Spirit Ashes, which I think are great for drawing aggro, doing a little extra damage, and overall making fights a little bit easier. The Skeletal Militiamen ashes are located at the Summon Water Village. You'll need to defeat the Tibial Mariner to do it. Now, he's not that hard. He does have a lot of moves that can one-shot you, but they're very well telegraphed and easy to avoid. The Spirit Ash has to be one of my favorite. They're not very tanky, and they don't do a lot of damage, but when they're defeated, they continue to resurrect unless they are attacked a second time while they're down, making them immortal allies. You can find the Godric Soldier Ashes south of Stormvale Castle in a cemetery on a small cliffside. The area is surrounded by spirit jellies. A few of them are already aggroed, so be careful. The Godric soldiers can't resurrect, but they're beefier, tankier, and do a lot more damage than the Skeletal Militiamen. They will even pull out a crossbow for ranged combat. Spirit Ashes are a great addition to the game in my opinion. For inexperienced or lower skill players, it makes defeating bosses far, far easier than in a comparable game like Dark Souls 3 for example. Summoning a Spirit Ash greatly lowers the difficulty of any encounter you will have in the game, and making Souls-like games more accessible is a good thing in my opinion, which, in the end, is the philosophy behind this guide. These two will get you started for the early and mid-game, but believe me, there are many other amazing and frankly game-breaking Spirit Ashes out there. Go out and find them, and have fun. The next part of my guide is rune farming locations. The Vulgar Militia farming method is found in Caelid, at the Bestial Sanctum, and the surrounding fields. At low levels, the Vulgar Militia hit like trucks, and they can kill you pretty much in one shot. However, their attacks are fairly easy to avoid, and here's the kicker, they have no pores at all. Just watch that. These guys fold like a cheap suit, go down like a lead balloon, whatever you want to call it. They're easy to take down. So there's nothing stopping you from taking down as many as you want. Well, perhaps boredom will. This method does get pretty old. Well, this is the honest way. Each of these guys yields about 1,000 runes. To start the sphere farming method, start at Lens Rise in Caelid. This one can also be repeated as many times as you want. Start by riding Torrent westward towards the bridge. Keep a close eye out behind you when you get near these rocky outcroppings. When the sphere appears, ride Torrent towards the cliff edge so that it pushes the sphere off the edge. It yields 2,000 runes, and you can reset it by resting at the site of grace. Now, if you want to make some serious runes, start at the first step in Limgrave. To start this farming method, we're going to want a gold pickled Foulfoot, which is an item that allows us to collect more runes. Now we need to hop down here in order to get it. Now if you look down, you'll see a spirit spring. Just jump on off and you'll be fine. Now the item in question is right here on this corpse. Gold pickled Foulfoot. Now just GTFO, and we'll meet back at the Fort Faroth site of grace. Now that big dragon right there is named Grail, and she is the mother of all Drake-type dragons. Unfortunately, we're going to have to put the old girl down in order to get a shitload of runes. For this farming method, you're going to want to equip the Morning Star, which I showed you how to get earlier. The key point of using this weapon is that it has native bleed, but you can use any weapon that has native bleed. The Morning Star just happens to have very low stat requirements, and the reason we want to use a bleed weapon is right here. That is hemorrhage damage taking down a percentage of the enemy's health. And Grail has such a huge health pool that it would literally take us several hours to take her down. But with this method we can just do it in a few minutes. Now as she dies, make sure to consume the gold pickled Foulfoot for a bonus to how many runes you get from this kill. And it is substantial. No jokes needed here, just watch the numbers. Oh yeah, money, money, money. That's a lot of runes and a lot of levels you just got, basically for free. Keep in mind that you'll accumulate a lot of runes just by playing through the game, but these farming locations present an easy and low-risk way to accumulate a few levels when you need them. In the next section of the guide, I'll cover upgrade materials. Smithing stones are the main upgrade materials, and they are essential for enhancing both your shields and weapons. Throughout the entire map, There are mines, marked like this. A red ring surrounding darkness. Look familiar? Once the map is all revealed to you, you can find them all over as indicated by the red ring. If you explore each of these, you'll accumulate tons of upgrade materials. I'm going to show you 2 mines in particular where you can obtain bell bearings, which are key items that can be given to the Twin Maiden husks at the Round Table Hold, which expands their selection of sellable items. The bell bearings we're looking for will allow them to sell smithing stones. The location of the first bell bearing is in the Rea Lucaria Crystal Tunnel in Liurnia. It's tucked away behind some trees, but you should be able to see a faint light, indicating the entrance to the mine. Head on in and use the opportunity to grab up some smithing stones that are on the way. We get the bell bearing from the boss at the end of the mine, so I'll just skip ahead and meet you there. Now I like to bring the Godric Soldier summons with me, because they carry blunt weapons and do a lot of poise damage, which we're going to need for the Crystalian. My advice is to let the Godric Soldiers do the heavy lifting, and then just jump in when you can for an attack opportunity. You'll be slowly whittling down his poise as you do so, until his carapace cracks. Now he has no poise. Watch. Every attack staggers him. This fight is essentially a joke now. Just mercy kill the poor guy and be done with it. Bell bearing number 1 taken care of. The next bell bearing is located in the sealed tunnel in the Altus Plateau. This one is quick, in and out. Get through the illusory wall, and try your best to avoid enemies. Open up this chest. Bell bearing number 2 taken care of. Back at the Round Table Hold, you can turn in the bell bearings that you just worked so hard for, and enjoy the fruits of your labor. Check it out. 4 levels of smithing stones are now available, enough to upgrade your weapon almost halfway. Of course, don't forget to utilize all those smithing stones that you just put all that work into. Head over to the Round Table Hold and visit Master Hugh to upgrade your weapons. After following this portion, you should have accumulated quite a few smithing stones, as well as the means of accumulating even more by buying them. Enjoy your upgraded weapon, and we'll move on to the final section, Miscellaneous. Every list has a few things that just don't fit into sections, so I'm going to cover them here. The whetstone knife is found at the Gatefront ruins in a basement. This item is essential for any build. It allows you to swap out your Ashes of War on any weapon, with the exception of somber weapons. There are other wet blades that allow you to change the scaling of your weapons. However, these are much deeper into the game and outside of the scope of this guide. The Flask of Wondrous Physic is found at the Third Church of Marika. You can mix various concoctions into a potion that will give you various buffs. And the various mix-ins for the Flask of Wondrous Physic are found at each of the minor Erd trees, which I'm showing you on the map. Some of them are just out in the open, ready to snatch up, and some are guarded by mini-bosses. After you gather an assortment of tiers, you can mix up a flask to your specifications based on the buffs you're looking for. And don't forget to equip it in your quick menu. You can purchase the lantern from the merchant in the Weeping Peninsula. Now this may not seem important, but I swear it is. There's lots of dark places in the game that greatly benefit from having a ready source of light. Now I always equip this one in my pouch inventory, like so. Click Y and then down on the D-pad in order to use it. And the same thing to unequip it. You'll thank me later. With that, we've come to the end of the guide. Ideally, this will make starting out in Elden Ring much easier for you. If you haven't already, I would strongly suggest that you follow my early map guide. If you found this useful, or you have other suggestions, please post a comment and we can generate some conversation. Get out there and have some fun in the lands between, and I hope to see you again soon.